BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Joe Biden has become the first sitting US president to visit the city of Tulsa in Oklahoma to commemorate the race massacre in which some 300 black people were killed by white rioters 100 years ago. Here's our North America correspondent David Willis.
The attack on a thriving black neighbourhood by a white mob back in 1921 constituted one of the worst episodes of racial violence in American history. For years, the full horror of what happened has been largely unknown, ignored by newspapers of the time and overlooked by historians. Now, though, as efforts get underway to excavate mass graves, public awareness is growing, and after calling for a moment of silence out of respect for those who died, President Biden said it was time for the entire country to face up to what had happened there.
The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Costa Rica to meet foreign ministers from 8 Central American countries to discuss the flow of migrants to the United States. A State Department official said that the Biden administration wants to confront the root causes, such as corruption and poor governance, that give rise to the mass exodus of Central Americans. The medical charity Médecins Sans Frontières says more than 500,000 people in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo have lost their supply of drinking water as a result of the recent volcanic eruption. Will Ross reports.
Médecins Sans Frontières says as a result of damage to Goma's main reservoir and pipework, 500,000 people have lost their drinking water supply. The medical charity warns that because cholera is endemic in eastern Congo, there's a threat of a major outbreak, so safe drinking water is urgently needed. Since Mount Nyiragongo erupted 10 days ago, there have been frequent tremors. As a result, hundreds of thousands of people have stayed away from the city, either in camps or with other families. In an effort to assess the level of risk, experts have flown drones into a second smoking crater where molten lava has been spitting out of the ground.
The South Korean military has ordered an investigation after a female Air Force officer apparently took her own life after saying she was sexually harassed by a colleague. Emily Horler reports.
The victim reported the alleged assault to her officers, who've been accused of covering it up and not taking the right steps to support her. The woman's father said she'd been encouraged to reach a settlement with a colleague who she said had attacked her. The Air Force officer was found dead just days after returning to duty following 2 months of leave. A spokesman said the South Korean military felt a heavy responsibility for not being able to protect the victim and will investigate what happened with both the military police and prosecutors.
World News from the BBC. A spokesman for the Western Saharan Independence Group says its leader has left a hospital in Spain and is flying back to Algeria. The move comes after a judge in Madrid turned down a request by prosecutors to detain the Polisario Front leader, Brahim Ghali, in relation to alleged human rights abuses. Mr. Ghali was being treated for COVID-19 in Spain. He denies abuses in the Sahrawi refugee camps in Algeria, where Polisario is based. A humanitarian NGO says at least 23 migrants have drowned off the coast of Tunisia as they attempted to cross the Mediterranean from Libya to Italy. The Tunisian Red Crescent said 70 other passengers from the overcrowded boat were rescued, as were a further 39 migrants on a second boat that sank near the Tunisian port of Sfax. A global initiative set up to find answers to the limitations of existing renewable energy sources is being relaunched. The initiative is supported by 24 countries, including the US and China. Roger Harrabin reports.
Wind and solar power are plunging in price and increasing in efficiency. But there's still the problem of what happens on an overcast, windless day when these natural resources don't produce enough energy. Mission Innovation, which was set up in parallel with the Paris Climate Change Conference in 2015, has made this conundrum its top priority. It set members, including the US, UK and China, the target of developing new energy storage and improving power grid systems to resolve the problem by 2030.
The organisers of the Grand Slam tournaments of tennis have promised to address players' concerns about mental health. The statement comes a day after the world number 2, Naomi Osaka, withdrew from the French Open, saying she suffered anxiety when fulfilling media contractual obligations. BBC News.